What's up, Lowlives? It's your boy Rhino back with another incredible episode of the Lowlife podcast. With me, as always, my boy, El Dano. You might be asking yourself if you're watching the video, why is it so fucking bright out, right, guy? And where's Dano? You said you were with him. Well, we did this interview last night. I'm just doing the intro here, but we have a really cool episode. We got to sit down with the writer and directors of a new Chopper movie that is coming out this year called Born to Lose. So we sit down with Joseph Zentel and Eric Kisney, and yeah, we talk about the influence the biker culture had on this. I got to know them. They're definitely chopper dudes, not biker guys. We're probably going to see them this summer too. That they're going to be doing, they aside from doing Hollywood movies and doing the film circuit, they ride fucking shovelheads and choppers, and they go on fucking rides and do all the shit we do. So it was really cool catching up with them. I got a chance to screen the movie, and it's fucking awesome. So right now it was released March 14th at the Cinequest Film Festival over in San Jose. You can catch it if you're in Winston-Salem, North Carolina. It's going to be playing April 20th. Well, 20. Smoke a bowl. Blaze. And it's going into Europe and all sorts of other places. So keep an eye out on Born to Lose 2026 movie. Let's get into this motherfucking interview. I'm going to go ahead and play the trailer to get you guys all jazzed up, and then we'll roll into this interview with Joe and Eric. Enjoy.
Every day is a new day here at Buc-ee's. Aren't you excited? I'm excited.
Howdy, popcorn eaters. Y'all like movies? This one's for you. It's basically white trash citizen gang. We got bikers, we got strippers, we got drugs. But don't do drugs, kids. They're bad. They'll fry your mind. We got high-octane gasoline burning. Everything is burning. The house is on fire. We are burning these images into your mind. This is America at its best. We got bonfires, bare-knuckle fighting, and bikinis. We got country music, muscle cars, and beautiful ladies. Also, some real ugly-ass dudes. Do you like hogs? Do you like freedom? How about getting some mosquitoes in your teeth riding down the highway? This is entertainment, violence, and lust. There's something for everybody, but mostly choppers, choppers, choppers. You're gonna love this movie. I'm ready for my goddamn Oscar. Come on. Where are those trophies at? Give me a trophy.
All right, guys, we are back with Eric and Joe, the writer and director of Born to Lose. Welcome to the show, guys.
Hey, thanks for having us.
Yeah, thank you very much. Very happy to be here.
So Dan and I got to watch this movie, and very cool. I loved it. The thing I liked about it, and I didn't know what to expect going in after I saw the trailer with Maddie Matheson going nuts as Bucky, as a used car salesman, but it wasn't what I expected going in. It's a real, really well played out, real thought out, like drama almost. And then there's like I thought it was going to be way more motorcycles and like exploitative biker shit from like the 70s, but it's not. It's just like a very tasteful underpinning of like, I definitely could tell that it was chopper culture as opposed to like biker culture.
Yeah. Right.
So let's just start off, like, where was the inspiration for this story to be told? Like, what is your background in motorcycles? It's definitely apparent in the film that like you guys are into choppers specifically and not just like bagger daddies and drinking Bud Lights.
So I mean, like, it's important, what you mention off the bat. I think that distinction is super important. Like that to us, we, as guys that love motorcycles, and specifically like we like the vintage stuff and choppers, there's all this like Sons of Anarchy, or there's this like more documentary kind of stuff, which is cool, but there was nothing that like embodied those classic films, like the Easy Riders and the Hell's Angels 69 and like all the classic bike exploitation 60s 70s era films. And I think the conversation, there's a much longer story, but the initial conversation between Eric and I ended in like, dude, let's make the next great like American biker film.
Yeah.
And you said like, well, it's not just all gratuitous bike stuff, and that is certainly not. We wanted to tell a really great story, and we wanted to tell a story that was inspired by the other people we knew in the scene. And there's all these little moments that happen in the film that are real life, that are things that happen to friends of mine, people we ride with, people we've met on runs. And I just didn't think, I thought there was a gap out there, to put a magnifying glass and to give some truth to like this big unsung demographic of dudes that are into choppers. And sorry, that's a long-winded, way to say that. We were into these bikes and we wanted to kind of do something for us, by us, and that was really like the spirit and the inspiration and the nucleus that started Born to Lose.
Yep. We so Joe and I met on Apocalypse Run and 8 years ago. And I don't know if you've talked to Reese, but he's the dude that puts on Apocalypse Run. And it's always been, kind of hard to find somebody to run the chase truck. So that year and pretty much every year since, I've been the chase truck driver, which is actually kind of awesome because it's, if it rains especially. But that year we were up there and I saw this, dude on I think you were on your shovelhead chopper. And I saw this dude and I was like, oh, that's cool. And I was like, who's that? And they're like, oh, that's that Joey Paycheck guy. And I was like, oh, I don't know who that is. So anyway, on the way back, Joey's gas tank sprung a leak. And he was trying to like hardcore it out. He was really like a trooper. But we
Finger in
went
the
maybe
hole.
like, yeah. And so we went maybe like an hour and finally we're like, dude, just put your, bike in the truck and, we'll just drive you down. Cause they rode from Grand Rapids. So anyway, we get in the truck and it turned out, Joe and I liked a lot of the same stuff as far as like music and movies. And we were both like really interested in like, New York City, like hardcore choppers, like the Iron Horse kind of chopper era. And I was like, oh, this dude's like a homie. Like, he's really cool. So at the time I was doing a podcast and I had been, writing for a bunch of different magazines. And I was, the print thing was kind of dying down. So I asked Joe to come on and be a guest on my podcast. And we talked for a pretty long time, like 2 hours, I think. But at the end, I asked him, like, what's your next thing? And he said, oh, I want to make the next great American biker movie. And I was like, I have an idea. So I pitched it to him and here we are.
Oh, shit. So
so
Apocalypse Run, that sounds familiar. It's the Midwest. You said Grand Rapids. Where it's a run. Where does it go to?
So it's like Grand Rapids, Michigan, and it goes all the way up to Upper Peninsula to a small town called Strongs, but I guess the closest reference point would be Sault Ste. Marie, if you want to call that a reference point. So, it's like one of the most northern parts of the U.S. for sure. And we come west from Ontario, through Detroit to get there. So yeah, it's fun, man. It's a blast. It's like a grassroots thing that Reese has been doing, I think, for close to 20 years now. And he's hardcore. He builds all his own bikes, and he's built me a bike, and he's built tons of our friends' bike, and he does parts and, buys and sells and does square body Chevys and listens to punk rock. He's the dude.
Yeah.
Oh,
Yeah.
shit.
He,
It's so dope that you guys met on a run. Like
yeah.
you think back
Yeah.
how crazy that is. Like the people you meet. Like in the community, it's just like a dude from Canada and a dude from like the Midwest or whatever just get together on a run, and then flash forward a few years later, and you're making a movie together. That's fucking crazy.
Yeah.
I know.
I mean,
It's
man, it was
crazy.
when we first talked about it, it was like, we're going to shoot it on camcorders for $15,000. And like, and it just kept evolving and like, and then all of a sudden it's like, wow, we cast all these like, known actors and we have a
Yeah.
budget and we have a real cinema camera and, like
Yeah.
I went to film school and I did music videos and commercials. Like I'm no stranger, but but the motorcycles was always something different. And I never really thought that, like, as obvious as it now seems, I never really thought the two worlds were going to cross. So it was kind of like, it, it became full submersion, like for the few years that I was doing it. And I could safely say now that, the film's finding an audience and it's going to be released wide soon. Like I'm a little bit relieved because I could just go back to enjoying motorcycles instead of it being like my day-to-day work and so yeah, it's been fun.
That is interesting too. That yeah, those the worlds of like cinema and motorcycles, they're not in the Venn diagram, like usually Choppers is in there with skateboarding hardcore, but like AV guys are not in that Venn diagram, and like script writers, uh but when it does happen, it's magic, right? So Joe, you've done directorial stuff and you were doing it for commercials and stuff. Eric, you were writing, but had you ever written a screenplay before this one?
No, I had been like a singer-songwriter for, most of the 90s and 2000s, and like I was on a label and, made records and stuff. And then kind of by accident, I started doing the journalism stuff, and I started, writing for the Indianapolis paper. I started writing for Greasy Culture in the UK, and then eventually, got my own column in the paper. And then based on that, I was able to start submitting to like big, print magazines. So what that taught me was, when you're writing a song, you got like 2.5 minutes or whatever to tell a story. But then when you're writing, a journalistic article, you're you've got whatever your word count is, like 1,500 to 4,000 words, and you've got to like find a hook. You got to find like a narrative. You got to find a way to tell somebody's story. So when I had like Joe and I had initially talked about the project, I wasn't really thinking about writing a screenplay. Like I was working on like a new record and still trying to do the magazine stuff and like focus on this podcast. But it's basically, long story short, it's just another way of narrative storytelling. You got to find that hook. You got to find that emotional appeal. You got to give somebody a vicarious experience. And if you can do that in your, narrative, I feel like that's where audiences really respond on like an emotional level, much like a song. I write poetry too, so, or a poem, or whatever. But yeah, it, when I think when I handed off the initial treatment and the first draft or whatever to Joe and Pierce, they were like, "Well, this is good, but it needs some, massaging." And
It, it,
I was
let me
happy.
jump let me
Yeah,
jump in there. It was less about is this good or bad, and it was
yeah,
more about, man, I really like this world. Like you've made such a lush three-dimensional world. You've created like the mold for these what would become these, great dramatic characters with a
yep,
lot of depth. But, but some of the formatting I wanted to change, and I wanted to make it applicable to some of the themes and messages that were personal to me as the director. So it was more about just you were gracious enough to let me take your idea and tailor it to my vision, and I
yeah,
think I was able to do that with my co-writer Pierce Sergo,
mhm,
who's really technical, and he's just a really thoughtful writer, and I'm more of like a stream of conscious sort of like raw energy guy. So together, like we worked really well, and with like Eric's head start, that's kind of what ended up becoming the film.
Nice.
yep,
Yeah, and
yep,
it's a learning curve to write a screenplay because I used to wanna get into movies. I have a few screenplays I've written. It's not very natural way of writing, you know,
You know,
because the way that it's
no,
like, the formatting alone, right, is and I'm sure there's all sorts of, like, great, like, AI programs that help you out with that now, but back in the day, dude, it was hard from writing, like, a story and then adapting it to, like, a visual form where you actually are writing out the scenes.
You
yeah.
know,
Go
uh,
ahead, Joe.
I was gonna say, the AI stuff's interesting because I've fucked around with it. I've yet to have AI produce a great original idea. It just lacks that
Fucking
analog
robot.
soul
Yeah.
that
It
yeah,
has no
exactly.
soul.
It just lacks the soul we have as humans. But what I will say is it's given me pretty good notes on some of my work and it's like assisted me in that capacity. So I don't want to like my message is yeah, AI will never have the human touch, but there is maybe a hybrid where it could assist us, and not on this project because AI, came out after essentially, but um in the future we're going to see it more and more, and I think it's going to be interesting how it works its way into media.
Yeah, it it's it's really funny to like write your first screenplay and hey Gary, what's up, buddy? Hi,
Hey,
how you
Gary.
doing? Good to see you, man.
I'm on dad duty right now.
No
That's
sweat.
great.
That's
Um,
cool.
but yeah, when you write your first full length screenplay, there's just so many like they're like, well, what beat sheet are you going to use? I'm like, what's a beat sheet? And so I had to like learn the craft, and the stuff I've written since then is a bit more in like an established format. But I was watching this interview with I think his name's Nick Pizzolatto or whatever his name is, the guy that wrote True Detective.
Mhm.
And he was a novelist before he wrote True Detective. And he said that he added like way too many details, which is kind of what I was doing because I came from, journalistic writing. But I would say the format is good, but it's not like a hard and fast rule. Like it's a
Right.
good starting place. And then the other thing I would say is like if you write a good story with strong characters and like a world people can, inhabit, um, I think your collaborators are going to make the most of that. And definitely that's what Joe and Pierce did, and
Th-
made it.
there there Sorry, I was going to say there's an economy to filmmaking,
Yes,
and
yes,
classic novels can be 5, 7, 100, 800, 1,000
yeah.
pages. Screenplays are 90 pages, and you don't, maybe if you're a legend, you can have another 10 pages, but you don't get much more than that.
Oh,
Right.
And
They got the
so
formula
every
down pretty good in Hollywood. They've been doing it for a minute, right?
yeah,
Exactly, and the
yeah,
and the audience to a degree expects a certain
yep,
thing, and the distributor and the financier and all the gatekeepers along the way. You need to play ball to a certain extent,
Yeah.
and you gotta pick and choose the rules you want to break. Because if you just go buck wild and break them all, you're gonna end up nowhere with it.
True. Yep.
yep, yep.
Yep.
And that was something going into it, because Joe and I talked, quite a bit. And one thing you told me, Joe, before, I think it was even maybe before, Pierce came on, was you're like, I've been so close to making a movie before so many times. And it's like, I want this story to get made as a movie. So I'll do, we need to do whatever they're asking us to do and to get it done. And so I always had that in the back of my mind. And it worked out great.
Yeah. So I want to ask both of you this question, but I'll start with you, Joe. How did you get into motorcycles? How did you fall in love with motorcycles?
Man. This is like a two-part story. So my first love of bikes was like a Suzuki DS80 when I was 10 years old, like ripping around my grandparents' farm, like trying to jump off little berms and ride in the cornfields and stuff. And that was that's when I fell in love with motorcycles. And I was really into like BMXs and all like kind of two-wheel stuff. But when I was living in New York, and I was working in film, a friend of mine in London was making a documentary for Vice. And he was London based. And he asked me, he's like, hey, I want you to, he's like, I need you to direct the New York segment of this Vice documentary. And it's about this like motorcycle guy. That's all the info I got. And I was like, okay. And he's like, he's from England, but he's in New York and he's doing a homecoming and blah, blah, blah. And I'm like, okay, great. I'll just like capture it all. So I show up and it's English Dawn, like the classic chopper builder. And
Damn.
like Babylon Taxi and like Indian Larry and Psycho, like just, I was kind of walking into chopper royalty and I was like a bit unprepared for that. And this guy was unhinged, just like downing pints and like fucking knows everybody and kept saying like, stick with me, kid, I'll make you famous. And like, he was just, and it was awesome. So he took me to Indian Larry's shop, who obviously wasn't around, but the shop's still around. And then he took me to Paul Cox's shop, who's a, classic biker build off guy, and Indian Larry had a shop with him, and and he was doing the custom knife making, and he was building leather stuff. Like I just had never really been experienced to that, like kind of do it yourself. But like I'd always been involved in the music world, and I understand the DIY make a record punk band thing, but I just never had seen it applied to motorcycles before. And it just kind of expanded my mind. And I was there with a camera guy and a sound guy, and we're capturing this, and I have my 35mm camera and I'm taking all these photos. And basically we end up at this like hot rod show, and we're meeting all these people, and I meet these two dudes that have a shop, and I'm hooked. How do I get into this? And they're just like, you got to go get a shovel head. That's step one. Like, go hunt
Good
down
advice.
any shovel. He's like, go get a shovel head and then bring it to us and have cash ready. And I was like, okay. So it wasn't until a few years later that it actually came to fruition. But that literally English Dawn and Paul Cox like inspired me to go fucking build choppers and ride choppers. So it was kind of like as cool as it gets. Yeah.
Yeah, that's a killer pedigree.
Yeah.
So Eric, how did you get into bikes?
So when I was a kid, my grandparents were still alive. We had a RV dealership, but it started out as a trailer park. So I always tell people like I was born in a trailer park, but we own the trailer park. So
Trailer park
Trailer
royalty.
Park King.
yeah, trailer park royalty. And so my grandpa, before World War II, he had an Indian chief that he would ride around, and that's how I met my grandma. And so he bought me my first mini bike. It was a Kawasaki KV75, and pretty much exactly like Joe said, man, I would just like rip around their property. I'd ride up and down the train tracks, and it was like the first time in my life that I remember just having this like completely just like feeling of freedom, where I was just like completely in control of my own destiny. And and I rode that pretty much all through grade school, and then I had a couple bikes I farted around with in high school, but then I had kids, and so I think around the time, my daughter, so like early 2000s, I had like scraped up enough money, and I knew I wanted a chopper. I knew what a chopper was, but I didn't have a lot of money, so I found this 66 BSA basket case, and I built a chopper out of that. And of course, that had the annual carbs, and those are terrible. They never ran right. And so from there, I sold that, and then I got into like Hondas for a little bit, and then I got my first Ironhead. And then from there, it's just pretty much been, Harley, everything. I had like several choppers, built several choppers myself. Um, it's funny that Joe mentions that story about English Don, because that was kind of like I was saying, we both love the New York hardcore choppers. And so Don, after that, had moved to Indianapolis, and he had a shop fairly close to where I live now. But he had, of course, Bayonet Brothers, and Larry from Bayonet Brothers. He was the roommate of my one of my mentors with writing, Chris Fouts, who was an Iron Horse editor after Dave Snow. And so it it was just really funny, like how Joe and I, our taste and our life experiences, even though we're, from different generations, they we really were able to like pretty much suss out each other's sensibility, early on. But yeah, sorry.
No, that's great. Yeah, you said you got into choppers at like probably the darkest times in chopper history in the early aughts, right?
Yeah,
But
Yeah.
you had the constitution or the fucking foresight to be like, I can't afford that 30,000 or $70,000 big wheel big dog chopper or whatever. I'm gonna get
yeah.
myself a PSA for a couple of hundo.
Well, this one dude, I had a friend who was like starting to kind of be a biker builder or a bike builder, and he knew like a couple of the more like old dudes. Like, so Indy has like pretty legendary war between like the Outlaws and the Sons of Silence. So I met some of those dudes. They were a bit earlier than me. And man, having kids, I was, just didn't have a lot of money all the time. But I remember this dude rode over to my house. Yeah, this really killer green metal flake shovel head chopper. And I was like, what's that? That's so cool. And he's like, I'll sell it to you for $3,000 titled. And I was like, oh, I don't have $3,000, but like $3,000, man, that's like you can barely buy a motor for $3,000 now.
Yeah.
So
Dude, now I'd go and rob a fucking grocery store for that. If someone offered me that.
Yeah, 100%.
I'll come up with $3,000 today.
Yeah.
yeah,
No, you
but
really
yeah,
got you really got to hunt for those fucking. I mean, shit's getting expensive. Actually, a lot. Some bikes are coming down. Like Triumphs, like BSAs, you can still get for a really good price. But like even the XS 650s and like the Japanese stuff is pretty crazy. What people want for it. And then the Harley stuff, of course, is insane.
yeah,
But
I got lucky because I just like stockpiled a bunch of stuff like 4 or 5 years ago, and I have just more projects in the queue than I can even handle.
That's awesome.
But
eh,
for now, but 10 years from now, when I run out of projects, I'm going to be jumping in at such a high. I screwed myself. There's going to be no slow inflation. I'm just going to be jolted 10 years from now.
Yeah.
yeah. I wish I
Yeah.
would have known that prices were going to be so crazy. I would have held on to all those fucking Sportsters I sold.
Yeah.
There's all the Sportsters for $6,000 now.
I know.
Unbelievable. Actually, I wanted to ask you because the motorcycle that Andy rides in the movie, what that is a Sportster, right? Is that a 1200?
Two Sportsters,
Two.
two different Sportsters. Yeah.
Okay. What whose are they? Who built those?
In the world, it's one bike.
One.
In
Okay.
in our world, it's two bikes.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
I was going to ask.
Did someone build that for the movie?
Yeah.
Yeah, Eric, why don't you talk about that a little bit?
So, it's an indie movie, and we've, always had to be budget conscious. So, one thing that was great about working with Joe was, because, we had like a good, friendship and working relationship, was hey, buddy. Hey, Gary. He said, he was like, I want you to, stay on as a co-producer, and I want you to be in charge of the bikes, because he's like, I know you'll you'll try to find, the best bikes we can get. So we had a fairly small budget, and I was living in Nashville at the time, and I was like on, Craigslist or Facebook Marketplace, and I found this like 96 Sportster 1200 for $600, and it was a complete bike except for it didn't have a front wheel. So I get in my truck, I drive out to like pretty much like Bristol, Tennessee, buy this bike, load it in the back of my truck, and I, found like a 21-inch front wheel, bought the brakes on, and then with pretty quickly I had it together, and so I was like real, excited, and I show it to Joe, and he's like, "Oh man, it's got to be a hardtail." And I was like, "Ugh."
Attaboy.
So yeah, so I did called people, messages, and I did some horse trading with Six Cycles Al, and I got a hardtail from him. And at the time, I was moving bikes back and forth from California, so I had a buddy stop and grab that. So then we took that 96 1200, and we took it to Rick Swadner in Fort Wayne, and Rick's a little low key, but I don't know if you know who Ben Jeff is, but they have a shop together in Fort Wayne. So basically, I gave Rick, the raw material, and I hit up Lowbrow. Mikey and Tyler were incredibly generous with giving us parts to build that bike. And then I went and picked it up, and Rick just like killed it. I mean, he built a great bike, super reliable, just what the character of Andy would ride. If you're a small town dude getting into the biker thing, you want to be hardcore, but maybe you don't have a lot of money. So Evo Sportster chopper all the way.
100%.
That's one of the best bikes you could possibly. If you actually want to ride it and it's your main mode of transportation,
Yeah.
late '90s, early aughts Sportster 1200, bulletproof.
That
So
for sure.
and the character Andy was inspired by like an amalgamation of people, but one of the people that inspired him, the real life Andy, is this dude out of Bowling Green, Kentucky, Andy Burnell. Really great dude, homie of ours, goes on the run. He's the owner of the silver bike. So when the bike crashes and they rebuild it, that was the bike, and I always loved that bike. It's like my favorite Sportster out there, favorite hardtail Sportster out there, and it was important to me to stay true to the character and the story. And in real life, this guy that's down on his luck and owes all this money and life's beating the shit out of him, he's not gonna own like a 56 like jockey shift like Candy. That's just
I'm not
not
gonna be showing up on Knucklehead.
exactly. And he's gonna have this like kind of bare bones bike, and he's gonna what
And
so sorry guys,
It's all right, man. All good.
I don't know how much of the plot you want to divulge on a podcast, Joe, but we knew that the black bike, that one was going to not look the same in the world of the movie at the end. So that was the other thing is we this small town drug dealer kid, he's not going to be riding some like 656 panhead or something. But also we knew that like we wanted to build a bike that we didn't have like a lot of money in, and that it was going to be changed in the course of the story. So, but dude, that bike's a champ. It's like out in my garage now. It'll start right up if I go out there.
That's awesome.
Listen, and it's in the teaser, like we can talk about it. There's a bike crash, and we knew from the start that that we were gonna, crash that bike.
Yeah. It on my master list of the vehicles for the movie, it's just called Crash Bike because I knew that bike. And then the other bike is called Burn Bike because we knew that, that's how
Sorry,
that.
my connection dropped there, guys.
Oh, it's
All
okay.
right. So you guys actually crashed the bike? Like,
Yeah.
it actually got, like, totaled, or I mean, it got
So yeah,
how do you do how did you actually do the crash? Like, did you have a stunt guy actually, like, dump it? Oh,
Yeah.
shit.
Mm.
So we had
You got
we
one
had
take
this,
to do this.
yeah, pretty much because we were on a budget, so we didn't have a
no,
backup bike.
literally,
So
no, that was
so we had this awesome dude from the UK. He's like an ex Royal Marine Commando, this dude named Martin, and Martin Williams. And he was like living in Nashville, like his wife worked down there, and he, came on with the stunt team. And we told him, we're like, hey, can you lay this bike down? He's like, yeah, sure. And he just went out and did it one take. And yeah, he absolutely killed it. And then he just got up and he's like, okay, what's next?
Mm.
Damn.
That was
I
a
wish I
tough
could do that.
scene.
yeah, he
That
was
was a tough
wearing
scene.
a
That was
full body.
ugh.
He was wearing full
Yeah, he's
body
wearing,
armor under his
yeah,
yeah, and
Ugh.
we literally had one take, and w- the camera was mounted on this like sort of like movable arm, and that was attached to a Ford Raptor, and we had this one road cut off closed off. So we were like, we did this run in like to get the synchronicity of all the movements and to all the different cues. We did it like 10 times, and the suspension kept building and building. And it had to be at night because it's a night scene. And we were like getting 4 a.m., 5 a.m., and we could see the sun peaking. And we're like, it was
yeah,
a fight against the light. And that was the
yeah,
last shot of the movie. We shot the crash. He crashed the bike. He was alive. We got the shot. We wrapped the movie. Most of the cast and crew were there on the curb. Half of us were crying. Like, it was just one of those
yeah.
kind of like once in a lifetime moments. And for
Wow.
that to happen
Yep.
immediately after this high intensity thing that had been building literally into the wee hours of the morning, like it was it was a really fun way to kind of end the
That is
production.
a cool way to to wrap a movie.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
It's like, if we have to do any
Yeah,
reshoots, we might
it
wanna keep
felt
this
like a
thing
movie.
intact.
Yeah, that's
Yeah.
crazy. Ugh.
It was cool, being on set and like being able to watch it through a monitor. I've got like a video on my phone of like, the crash. But it looked so cool in the monitor. Like when I saw the crash when he laid down the bike, it looked so cool. And I was just like, man, like Joe just like really knew how to compose the shot. He knew what he wanted, and it came out great. And well worth, I don't know, whatever we spent on that bike, like, you know, well worth it.
Yeah. So a couple questions just about the filming of the movie. Did you guys film it all in the same, like, place, or did you bounce around, and what was your shooting schedule? Like, did you shoot for 2 months, or
Yeah, so the first part of that, in all over the country, there's different tax incentives per state. So obviously you're incentivized to choose a state that has a high tax rebate. So we were looking at a couple specific states. We were looking at Alabama, Atlanta, Oregon. I think we crossed California off the list pretty early. We crossed New York off the list pretty early. We're looking at Toronto and Hamilton, Ontario, and we did our sort of due diligence, but there was two components. There was the business component and the accessibility to crew and all the filmmaking sort
Huh.
of stuff. And then there was the like, is this good for the movie? Is this the world we wrote? And it wasn't until we got out of the truck in Paducah, Kentucky, where like, the producers and I looked at each other and were like, we just stepped back into time. Like, this is our world. And then just like we went to sleep and we woke up and our local contact brought us to this like completely untouched from like the late 40s. I don't know what, like, shop space that ended up becoming Jed's shop in the film, and we just kept like ticking all the boxes, and but after 48 hours we were like, this is it, like,
Yeah.
undoubtedly, how do we make it work? And it wasn't the most convenient, compared to some of the other options, but we ended up poaching every a lot of we had a lot of local participation, and everybody was super gracious, and the mayor helped us, and the police and the fire and all the people and the catering, and like literally on and on and on. It was amazing how, I keep saying gracious, but that's the best way I can explain it. Everybody in the town just like was so generous with us. But we had a lot of support from Nashville. We had a lot of support from Louisville. We had one or two transplants from Chicago, and a bunch of people came in from LA. And so it was kind of this, maybe in the middle of the country, but everybody kind of like came in, and the production took place for about a month, but we were there about 2 months with pre-production and wrap out, and then we had been in Paducah the year before to do the scout. So, I
Mhm.
mean, it was a multi-year process, but the actual like camera up with the actors acting and everything running, like that was about a month. The actual
Hmm.
photography of the film.
Yeah.
Wow.
And it was weird going to Paducah like for the first time because it really reminded me of like where I had grown up in the kind of like post-industrial, town, and a lot of people just, kind of like getting by. And I would say, I don't think Paducah's ever mentioned in the movie in any of the dialogue, but it definitely kind of becomes a character in itself because it had a certain vibe that I think really played to Joe's artistic vision.
I think originally it was kind of like we want it to be like an anonymous, like any town USA kind of
Mm.
vibe. But then we started filming like with exposed Kentucky license plates. So I was kind of just like, okay, fuck it, it's any
Sure.
town, Kentucky.
Yep.
And then as we kept shooting, I just kept choosing like Paducah specific landmarks, like this very distinct bridge, and like, the downtown area with the cobblestone streets. And like, so I was just like, okay, I'm going to embrace it. Like, there's no point to
Mhm.
hide there's no reason to hide the
Right.
identity of this town. Like, let's
Right.
lean
Right. If
into
it
it,
fits, yeah, then
and they
run
were
with it.
so good to us. So it was like, that's me honoring, that's hopefully a form of reciprocation.
Yeah.
It uh, One thing I really liked about being in Paducah for a couple months was it's a small city. It's like 30,000 people, but it's got like a Harley dealership, it's got a BMW dealership, it's got a mall that people still go to, and like a lot of really cool restaurants. They get a lot of like national touring acts coming through there. They've got a couple venues, and it was cool. It's like read these like stories about like when they were filming like Lawrence of Arabia, and they're like out in Tunisia in the desert for 6 months. It wasn't like that at all. It was like, we'd wrap shooting for the day, and if it wasn't too late, we would just like all go to this like one bar, the Silver Bullet, and we would just like hang out, listen to the jukebox. Locals would talk, and it
Well,
was a really great place.
Yeah,
and we had the support of Harley, and we also, more importantly, during production, had the support of Four Rivers, like our local Harley dealer there. They gave us a whole like hangar to do our, bike, to house our bikes, and to put lifts up, and to store props, and they were so gracious with us, and like they really just
every time
the
you
motors.
bring something else up, I'm like, "Oh, yeah, it takes so much fucking work to make a
Mm,
It's
movie."
it's
Like,
crazy.
you
It
don't even
I
think about, like,
mean,
where you gonna keep all this shit, you know?
well, we had that whole
that was
the this is a cool story. The sequence with the bonfire where they go to the party, and there's this like outdoor First of all, there's like 500 extras there, which is amazing that all these
Yeah.
people showed up for free and just kind of hung around. And like, it's not a real party. There was no booze. There's no like that. They're not
Yeah.
having a good time. They're there to support the film.
Yeah.
And thank you if you're listening. It took place at this abandoned legendary Kentucky horse racing track, and it was scheduled to be demolished. But the city, Brett, our producer and local contact, convinced the city to delay the demolition so we could shoot that night sequence. That stadium does not exist. We got the final touch on that, which is such a cool little trivia piece to this movie and such a little Paducah nod, for all the Paducah people that are going to watch this film. It's like, that's a iconic thing in their skyline that's no longer there. And hopefully in our own way, we've immortalized it a little bit. And, and it's just all these little things like all these little things like that comprise this like big film. And when you work on something for years, all these little micro macro details, they all compile, and you just like have this, you go see a movie, you're in and out in 2 hours, and you eat your popcorn and you pay your $20 or whatever. You don't really appreciate the years that people put into that little thing. So to finally be on the flip side and live my dream and make the film, and hopefully the first of many, like it just gives you that a newfound appreciation for the whole process.
Yeah.
And this is your directorial debut, I guess they'd call it. Even though, I mean,
Yeah,
is that what they call it?
yeah,
If you in the biz, if it's your first feature length movie.
yeah. I guess the first feature is kind of the most common way it gets labeled. Um, I'd done a bunch of shorts that had played at different festivals, and I'd done like, without exaggeration, maybe 100 music videos, and I dabbled with some commercial stuff, which was, never really my passion. So I never just went down that road. But I always knew I wanted to make movies, and this was sort of like, this kind of just happened. The idea had its own inertia, and it just kept snowballing and snowballing, and what was going to be like a little, low budget pipe dream turned into a real movie that, has real actors, and it's going to get a wide release in whatever
How do you make that
capacity.
leap? Like from being like, all right, we're gonna do this on like 12 grand and use our friends, to shopping a script around and getting financial backing. Like, what's that look like?
Yeah, so we through sort of a stroke of fate or luck or both, we got connected with our EP, with Michelle Silvanetto, who's our EP, and she just connected with the story, and she had a similar kind of backstory to certain elements of the film, and she just related to it. And she was the one that kind of gave us the thumbs up to make the movie. And then shortly after, Maddie came on, and obviously Maddie was a huge cosign, and he's kind of like a long time friend of mine, and we were both,
Oh, no way.
fucking around in the hardcore scene in our like kind of youth, and we knew this. We got tattoos from the same tattooers and
Put
went to
put
the
it
same,
put in a good word for me, because he doesn't he doesn't respond to my DMs.
Okay, okay,
I want him on
okay.
the
I'll
show.
tell.
I love that
All
guy.
right.
Okay, I'll tell him. I'll tell him.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Dude,
he's a great guy.
that's so cool. And is
He's so
where is he
busy.
from
Like,
originally? Is he from Is he a Canadian, right?
Yeah.
yeah. So he's like 2 hours west. He's like on the other side of Buffalo, New York. He's like adjacent to Niagara Falls,
Yep.
an area called
Fort Erie.
Fort Erie. And then in his like youth, he made the pilgrimage to Toronto, and like started working in the kitchen scene, and got it, started working with Vice, and and now he's on, one of the most popular TV shows, Emmy, award winning shows. He's a EP, and he's one of the inspirations, and he's like an actor in the show. So, and he's now expanded his show to Netflix, and he just does a million trillion things. So for him to even give me 5 minutes for this, like, we're super appreciative. And he was on set for a portion, and he obviously has a small role in the film.
Mhm.
And he's actually, been a big part of the behind the scenes as well, advising us on his experiences, and just guiding the project. Everything an EP should be doing, he's been, gracious helping us with.
Yep.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
Yep.
Love those. That's like you need that kind of support, and that's like if you're part of like choppers or hardcore, one of these subcultures, you find the best people, like just real salt of the earth motherfuckers that are actually like down to help you, and you don't get that in other places in your life. Like even my
No.
neighbors, I don't think they would fucking call the fire department if my house was burning down. You know what I mean? But
Yeah, that's one aspect. I, I can't overemphasize enough because going to like my friends and acquaintances and contacts in like the chopper world, everybody was like super receptive. I mean, there were, some people are like, oh, whatever, but the people that came through, I mean, came through big. And like Trent, the manager of Four Rivers, Harley Davidson, not only did he give us like clothes and bikes and like kind of material support to like work on our bikes and store all of our bikes and some props and stuff, but like he was amazing in just like getting people to show up as on their bikes as extras for certain scenes. And awesome dude, great guy, but one of many. Like we've just gotten so much support from the chopper scene as it is. And I think, I hope, I mean, based on like what you tell us, like, did we do it justice? I mean, like,
I I've been waiting to say, I think this is the first time I've seen a movie with choppers involved that there isn't a little bit of the Sons of Anarchy involved. You know what I mean? This one was like, when I
Yeah.
see him riding that sporty in the first scene, I was like, right on. This is real shit.
Yeah.
Like, it's a little, like you said, you got little town, Midwest vibes, blah, blah, blah. Like, dude's wearing the same helmet we all were wearing when we all had the first sporty chop. You know what I mean? Like, it's a very similar bike. I've got one sitting in the garage right now. You know what I mean? So it's like, fuck yeah, that's awesome. And then everything else, like the way he dressed, the way he carried himself, the way he took a beating, like all that other stuff. That's that's
for
like
me, it was
chopper
that
people are clearly involved here. This isn't like motorcycle culture people who are like, this is what we think a chopper guy looks like. You know what I mean?
the line that did it for me is when he corrected him when he called it a
Yeah.
bobber. You drive
Yeah.
around with your bobber.
Yeah.
I go, these guys know the difference.
100%.
Very nuanced, and you wouldn't pick up on that unless you ever fucking tried to buy a bobber on fucking Craigslist or something,
Yep.
Yeah. And
You follow
that,
chopper memes or whatever like
Yep. Yeah,
And-
I was waiting for Bar Hopper to come up, but I don't think I heard it.
and like I've argued with people for years about like, this is a chopper, this is a bobber.
Yeah.
And it really, that's kind of one of those like breaking points where it's like, if and if you think they're both the same, or you're probably not that cool. So
Yeah, they're not interchangeable terms.
No.
yeah, exactly.
Nope.
So yeah, I guess what's next for this movie? So it just released, I believe, mid March. It's doing like, how does this work? It's on like the festival circuit to start, and then or how does that? Where can people watch it if they want to watch it?
So every festival kind of has their own agenda. Festivals, they have a program, so you kind of send the film out, and anywhere where the film fits into their program, they'll include you. So we've been lucky enough to be invited to screen at a number of festivals. So right now we're just kind of doing a festival run. It's super limited. The next screening is going to be at a festival in Winston-Salem, North Carolina called River Run. It's a really great sort of regional festival, and they're like tastemakers, and they've screened tons of films that have gone on to be quite recognized, and they celebrate some really talented filmmakers. So we're quite honored to be part of that. Um, and then I can't, it's not announced yet, but we're going to do another big festival in the UK, which we'll be announcing in the coming weeks. And then we have a few other ones in Europe, and hopefully
Oh wow.
one in Canada in the fall. So, there's sort of like a little run of festivals that we're gonna do, and then we're gonna do a run of theatrical to kind of coincide the tail end of that, and then hopefully by Thanksgiving, US Thanksgiving, we'll be on streamer, hopefully, something that's easily accessible, and at that point, you could literally just, search it up on your
Hell
TV or
yeah.
computer and find it.
Awesome.
Yeah. What's where did I guess who came up with the title of the movie?
Yeah, so that was it. Just kind of like it came to me. I had seen it always growing, like, my dad was kind of into like car shows and muscle cars and stuff, and he kind of had some interesting cars. And I was sort of exposed to hot rod culture young, and I would always see like just the classic, like Man's Ruin or Born to Lose or Snake Eyes. And it just kind of stuck with me, and we kind of dabbled with all these other names. And I think just like the overwhelming sense of failure in this guy's life and all the different things he pursues that don't work out. It really felt like it just encompassed the body and soul of what was kind of what Andy was going through, and it just ended up kind of becoming that. And once we, you know, titled the film, we never looked back. It just sort of fit, and we ran with it.
It sounds like
We
a chopper
rode with
show.
it.
I think you nailed it.
Yeah.
Yeah, 100%. I think you nailed
Thank
it.
you.
Born to
Thank you.
Lose show, dog. Um,
Yeah.
yeah, dude. Yeah, it just came together. I'm really glad that we got to screen it. I'm just I'm sorry for all you lowlifes listening to us right now because you guys are gonna have to wait or catch it at one of these festivals. Keep an eye
Yep.
out. Do you guys have like a website or something or social media that people can follow to see if it's screening in their area?
Yeah, definitely. I would say the best place to go first is Instagram, born to lose underscore film. All the links are there, but more importantly, you can see like set photos and the teaser with Maddie. Maddie's like the narrator of the teaser. Lots of kind of riding footage and like a little sneak of what kind of happens in the movie. I'd say in the coming days or month, we're gonna have a longer format trailer, and then eventually there'll be like a full sort of theatrical trailer once we know what's happening with the release.
Yeah. I wanted to ask both of you that I got a question. I want both of you to answer this one. I'll start with you, Eric. What kind of movies do you like? Like what are some of your favorite movies? What are your inspirations when you were writing this?
So I'm sitting in my home office and I have like movie posters on the wall. And so my all-time favorite movie is Repo Man by Alex Cox.
Emilio Estevez, dog.
Probably my second favorite is The Third Man with Orson Welles. I love The Wild One is like another one of my, favorite movies. Me personally, I love film noir, especially. I love French New Wave. And then I really love like 70s, like New Hollywood. So like everything between like Easy Rider up to like Jaws. So that's Martin Scorsese, um, Paul Schrader, Taxi Driver. Those are sort of my, big influences. One thing I would say about Born to Lose is it could almost be a neo noir movie, almost
Mm.
not quite, but it's that idea of the hero is kind of born to lose. He's damned. He's
Odd.
kind of screwed, and he has to work his way out. And so when I saw it, I was like, oh yeah, this is one of my favorite movies now. Even though I
It's
was
true
involved.
about the protagonist too. It's like without giving, I'm not gonna give anything away, but it's like depending on how you grew up, he's not super likable. Like he's
No,
this kind of scumbag, that you root for.
everybody is.
He's definitely an anti-hero, and I think, you run the risk of people not relating to it, but as the film goes on, you slowly kinda relate to him, and you start to as we witness his arc, he does begin to make better decisions, let's just say that,
The way it starts off is really gonna hook you. I'll tell you
Oh
that.
yeah.
Yeah, I
That
know
yeah,
what you're
so,
talking about.
that
Oh,
like, that's a
that
true
was
I don't
not
wanna
expected.
and you know what, man? I think of this film as such like a bleak, dramatic film about the interpersonal lives and the generational trauma but I forget that there are actually these incredibly funny moments in the film,
Yeah.
and it wasn't until we were at the premiere and I was sitting there and I've sat in a theater and watched the film before, but by myself and with my editor. And to now do that, but with a couple hundred people in the audience and to hear like the room of of laughter and like it just sort of not only was it rewarding, like, okay, we were a success, but you just realize that this film isn't mine anymore. Like once it goes to the audience, it belongs to everyone.
mm, cool.
And that was my first time director moment, sitting in that theater for the first time, like experiencing that transformation, and that was really cool for me, and I really do feel like I made this film for everyone, but especially anyone that has a bike, and especially anybody that's into choppers and they've been through this shit, uh,
Yeah, I'd have a
and they
fucking heart
watch
attack
it.
if I was screening my movie for the first time that I poured my heart and soul into.
Oh God, I can't
Man,
even
dude,
imagine.
I'm like, they're all what's the Adam Sandler thing? They're all gonna laugh at me, like
Yeah.
Best comedy
So
CD ever.
So having watched the movie now, I will tell you guys, when we screened it, my entire family flew out from Indiana. So like both of my kids, my mom and dad, both of my sisters, and a couple of my nieces and my brother-in-law. And so I sat by myself because I'm like, I don't want my mom like nudging me or, giving me a hard time about some of the stuff, but they
Yeah,
loved it.
it's definitely a hard R movie.
Yeah,
There's
for
lots of
sure.
sex, drugs, and fucking choppers in it, but,
Yep.
so
Yeah.
that like jumping back to your previous question, like I to get ready for this film, I just went on a tear watching Paul Schrader and Abel Ferrara movies, and Light Sleeper and Bad Lieutenant,
Great.
and
Great.
also
all
Barbie
these
Night's
like
also good.
and I just watched movies that I knew when they made the movie they didn't have a lot of money. So I was like, I'm like, don't ever let the money put you in a box. Like creativity is bigger than money. Um and I was like, these are all classic films that were made on a shoestring. So like I'm watching and setting the bar for myself at the
Yeah.
I'm doing research and motivation at the same time.
Yeah.
Yeah, totally.
No, that's really inspiring when you look at, like, what Robert Rodriguez did with Desperado and, like,
Yep.
Yeah.
or
Yeah.
Mean Streets and, like, all those movies,
Yep.
like, dude, they didn't have money and nobody wanted to make those types of movies because 'cause we're ultra violent and you can't play they want Hollywood wants PG-13, you know what I mean? But if you make something
There
and you
there's
care about it, it comes through in the end product, you know?
One of my favorite documentaries is called Streetwise. It's about like these street kids and I think it's the 80s in Portland, and is directed by a famous photographer named Mary Ellen Mark, and nobody wanted to give her the money to make this movie. But at the last minute, Willie Nelson gave her the money to make this documentary, and it's one of the most like sort of badass kind of hardcore documentaries of all time, and to think like it took such a fringe personality, such a like creative trailblazer to even give her the chance. Like, who
Wow.
knows what all the Hollywood sort of bullshit gatekeeping and everything. Who knows what kind of we do occasionally get these like brilliant films from these brilliant filmmakers, but if there was less gatekeeping, like who maybe we'd have 10 times that, maybe it's a good thing. Maybe the world's not ready. Maybe the world can't handle it, but
Yeah,
Some
no,
some of the like I think some of the most iconic movies that the personal favorites of mine, they were low budget movies, and it came down to the director, the story, and the director of photography, and then the art director. And it's like, look at Mad Max. Like, that was a notoriously low budget movie, and you know he had so much. But today it's like it's a classic. I mean, I would even call it like a classic of the biker movie genre. But launched Mel Gibson as a career, and just you know had no money. I think
I,
a couple
I,
$100,000.
also, let me throw in there, we didn't just watch old movies. Like we're really we looked at Killing Them Softly. We looked at Place Beyond the Pines. We
Place
we
Beyond the
looked
Pines. Yeah.
we looked at Sound of Metal. I don't know if you guys have seen Sound of Metal. Like what a fucking brilliant movie, and that was a huge inspiration to
That was
us.
great.
And
Yeah.
there are a lot of amazing filmmakers out there making good movies. You have to dig a little deeper than the first page of Netflix, but um, yeah,
yeah,
a lot of inspiration out there. We're lucky to have all this access to all this inspiration and all this material, and it's a big part of our process creatively. And we love homaging and learning from other filmmakers and stuff. So I definitely think that's a huge. When you build a bike, what do you don't just go to the shed and do it. You look through hundreds of pages of bike mags and
mhm,
scrolling Instagram, and like that farming of inspiration, at least in my process, is super important, and I know for Eric as well. And our crossed love for the same material is kind of what brought us here in the first place. So
yeah.
Yep.
No, that's true. I mean, you gotta find inspiration, right? Like, yeah, you don't just cook up something completely, like, out of the ether in your mind. You're like, "Yeah, I'm gonna build a chopper that nobody's ever done before." It's like, if you tried that,
Yeah.
I bet you'd make an exact copy of someone else's chopper, you know what I mean? Like, you have to see what's out there to
maybe
also be
talk.
like, "I'm not gonna
If
do
you're
that."
if you're Tom Fugel or something, like maybe
Yeah,
there's like, there's that 0.001% of, savant level chopper builders, but everybody else, you know, goes to the same places to see the bikes. Or
Yeah.
shows, obviously shows as well, and it was to going to Wazion, to going to Davenport, going to Born Free, going, Roll the Bones in Montreal, like, seeing all these seeing a lot of different, but also same was a big part of this film, and knowing that no matter where we went, there was this group of people that we could relate to and that would relate to us. And that's been one of the most rewarding parts of the process.
yeah. So, what is, I guess, looking back at it now that it's all done, and it's pressed and it's filming, it's showing at places, like, what was your favorite part about making this movie?
Yeah, so the most challenge the most challenging part of the film to me were the like multiple page dialogue to very dramatic dialogue scenes, and to coordinate that and to work, with actors, and to choose all your shots and to do all the eye lines and to carry a narrative pace to it, and it requires a lot of skill and a lot of thought, and to do that properly, I think was one of the greatest lessons I learned moving into large format and coming out of, music video where you don't have dialogue, you have a music, you have a soundtrack, literally.
Yeah.
That's the point. So, yeah, definitely just expanding my skill level and my tool bag to make this happen was the greatest challenge, and but ultimately the most rewarding part of it as well.
I'd say probably my favorite part was just the collaborative relationships. It was, great working with like the core, creative team that we had, put years into developing the project. But just like, man, like once like we got on set, just like Lisa, our wardrobe designer, was amazing. Our hair and makeup people were amazing. The
Garrett.
Garrett, yeah, Garrett, the DP, the director of photography, he was amazing. Kentucky, Jason Roberts, our first assistant director, killed it. I mean, we had so many great people on this project, and it was really humbling and gratifying for me just to like, oh yeah, they're all here because Joe and I were having a buddy conversation in a truck in Michigan. And it just, now it's has its own life and it's great.
Yeah, now I'm on set working with James LeGros, who's like
Yeah, yeah,
he's an
James.
independent film legend, and
Yeah,
he was
yeah,
gracious enough to let me ask him a million questions like, "Hey, what's
yeah,
David Fincher like? What's Catherine Bigelow like? What's Gus Van Sant like?" And
yeah,
he gave, he was thoughtful and kind of opened himself up to me and shared all these stories, and yeah, and also having his kind of guidance and his thoughts on the material, and he did a little editing himself, with his dialogue and stuff, and all for the better. This is a guy that's just done it so many times, and
Hmm.
he was a real veteran, and very hard to second guess him, because everything he's saying is just with such intention, and he's like a true master filmmaker, and he's a master independent filmmaker, and he's a master actor, and to work with somebody that caliber on my first film, like it was a gift. It set the bar really high. Like I can't I can't look back now.
and then Dylan, like
Yeah, Dylan.
the star, like he really jumped in with both feet as far as like learning to ride the bike. Like he was always down, to do his own riding, where it was appropriate. And he, wanted to know about, certain things about the bike and how it worked and stuff. And it, what I thought was cool, because I didn't know, I'm an old dude, so I didn't know who he was going in. But as soon as I told my 21-year-old daughter that he was going to be the star of the movie, she's like, giggled, and she was super excited. And I would say, um, if you watch his other stuff, his performance as Andy, man, he had this like he brought so much to it. He brought so much to that role and really brought it to
I
life.
I think that's kind of an important thing to talk about. We casted him against his usual type. Like he
Yep.
always plays like the nice friend that doesn't get the girl, or the nerdy guy, or and
Oppenheimer's brother.
yeah, exactly. And to now put him center stage and make him the bad boy and make him an anti-hero,
Yeah.
I think it was something he was a little apprehensive to do, but also super excited to do, and he really sunk his teeth into it, and he just showed up so. I'll say this: he just showed up so psychologically prepared, so tuned in. Dylan Arnold was out the window. He
Yeah.
was Andy. he thought like Andy. He's thinking in Andy logic. He's not thinking in Hollywood actor. Like he really like he has a theater background and he has this long history of like workshop acting, and he's a real like actor's actor. And I kind of
Yeah.
knew that, but I hadn't seen it. And then he just showed up and just blew us away how he embodied this character, and he did it with such subtlety, and he did it, and he was so open in the way he worked with me, and we were able to have this like great collaboration.
Yeah.
And he's thrilled with the film, which was he is the first guy. He's like the only guy I want to like the movie. Like if he likes it, it's like, okay, you know, if he doesn't like it, I'm like, fuck, what am I gonna do with this thing?
Yeah. No, what you're saying really, like, just thinking back on it, because his character is he's not just like a total badass with sunglasses smoking butts. Like he's a vulnerable human being. So
Yeah.
like
Yeah.
to play that balance. And I know him. I'm a big horror movie guy, so I remember him as soon as I heard the name. I go, that sounds familiar. Halloween 2018.
Yeah,
Jamie
the
Lee
Halloween
Curtis.
movies.
He's like the boyfriend of the sister or something. But yeah, totally different, like almost unrecognizable. But he brings that like I guess the only word I can come up with is vulnerability, because in this story he's put into such a bad spot,
Yeah.
and it's kind of his own fault. You know what I mean? Like it's
Yep.
not like, oh, some shit happened. Like those people in your life where like the worst fucking shit happens to this person, and you're like, why? That's the worst possible thing that could have happened in your life right now,
Yeah.
Just
Yeah.
can't make
But-
a good decision to save your life
Yeah.
kind of guy.
No.
I think he represents the actual like normal chopper person. And I feel like most of us in that scenario would do stupid shit. You know what I mean? Like I found myself watching the movie going, oh, come on. Like, you know what I mean? Like, and I'm sure that's what you're looking for. Right. But it's like, yeah, dude, I would have made a bunch of the same fucking decisions and like ended up. I feel like he's riding the sporty chop, like he's getting his ass beat too, but he's also beating ass and he's like doing cool shit, but then terrible shit's happening, and it's like, fuck, is that
And he's getting
relatable?
laid,
Like
too.
just a normal ass chopper
Yeah.
dude, like.
I
God.
mean, that was but that's where we came from, because I've done a bunch of stupid shit that he does in the movie.
Right.
These are all stories of our friends. Like this is like it's like a memoir to this, the last 10 years of our lives, like riding these bikes and the people that ride them, and just like it very much is that. It is that. So
We all
that resonated with you is like,
Oh,
that
yeah.
means a lot,
big time, man. Absolutely. We all deep down, like we want to think that if we were cast into scenarios like that we would thrive and be like, fuck it. Yeah, I can take on the load. But the reality is most of us would get our shit stomped. You know what I mean? Like that wouldn't happen, So it's like, yeah, I feel like that really made it like really relatable and
Well, it's also
believable, you know what I
it's
mean?
believable, and then the other thing is like there's so many other themes in the movie that aren't. It's not like this is a biker movie about bikers. You know what I
Right.
mean? Like it's not crammed down your throat. It's just
Right.
like this is a story of a guy that that you could relate to. And that's why I
Mhm.
think it's going to resonate with people that are into choppers, because it's like, it's believable. He's not a fucking total badass. He gets stomped out, but he does dirtbag shit and bad shit happens to him. And then the bike thing is just a common theme throughout,
Right.
So it's just like, to me, it's like I can't even name another movie like a bike, which I would consider a biker movie. You know what I mean? Unless that was the main theme. You know what I mean?
Right.
Like yeah, obviously Easy Rider's awesome, but it's like about these two bikers. You know what I mean? Or the Wild Ones. Like it's about that. This one it's a story about this person, and that's just part of his story.
Right.
Mhm.
Which is very cool.
Yeah,
Yeah.
thank you. I mean, that was the intention. We didn't want to make a genre film that was just like sleazy bike stuff. We wanted to make a real drama to open this world up to a larger audience, and we wanted to show people that like, hey, these are real people that we know, and these are our stories, and we didn't just want it to be this little thing. We wanted to kind of share it on a wider scale, and hopefully, we get there, because I think there's universally applicable points of morality in this film. Like, whatever, man, woman, whatever your age is, like, there's something that everybody can take from this and apply it to their own life or their own experiences.
For sure. And not that I don't mean this to say that this is a political movie by any sense, but I really appreciated like what little bit of like kind of political, worldview stuff
Yeah.
there was in the movie. Was like,
Yep.
man, you want to talk about how, people our age, what I mean, feel right now, where it's like, we might be, riding American badass motorcycles and Harley Davidson for life and all this other stuff, but we're not our previous generations, like,
It was, yeah, you
warmongering
could
and whatever. So like
it was
the way you
balanced, like
guys
the
handled that,
generational thing.
yeah, the way you guys handled that was fucking awesome. It was spot on. I
Yep.
really appreciated that.
That was thank you, and that was very intentional, because I don't necessarily associate with either side of the spectrum, and the point wasn't to co-sign one side or the other.
Right.
The point was to kind of show you that the conversation is what's important. The constant dialogue, the communication. That's regardless of your worldview or your political view, like, there is common ground that we can all find, and that's the larger point. It's not to endorse one side or the other. It's to, without the risk of sounding too like the message is peace.
Right. Sure, absolutely. Yeah, I think that's how it comes out. That's how I interpret it. You don't really see that you don't see it displayed that way. You know what I mean? Where it's like the youth kind of standing up to especially like our generation. You know what I mean? You don't really see a lot of that where it's like, hey man, we don't really subscribe to the same shit. You know what I mean? So I
And they
really like that. I appreciated that.
and in the character, they both kind of have these almost polarizing views, and the same trigger is a loss in their life.
Right.
And so at the end of the day, there's these two incredibly hurt people that are ultimately affected by the same thing, and it just manifests differently. I think the way that we deal with grief and like, everyone's different, and I think that's kind of one of the important things to thematically underscore.
Sure.
Yeah. I think as far as like, the scene, you're talking about, um, I think it makes the movie more real,
Mhm.
because it's not preachy, it's not high-handed, it's not telling you what to think. It's showing real people who've experienced real loss, and it leads to a deeper understanding, especially between Jed and Andy. But, just like you said, it's something we kind of all are dealing with right now, and honest, we've been dealing with for the last 25 years, honestly.
Mm.
So, but yeah, it was important to me, in that when we started the project, that it would have like a working class appeal. And I don't mean like pandering, for sure, but I wanted it to be something where, um Andy wasn't portrayed as some, like, dumb hillbilly, or some, guy that, lacked merit, or like moral depth. Um and Joe did a great job of, taking that theme and expanding on it, and, keeping it in the movie.
Mhm.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it was it's it's good to have, like, well, here's the thing is, like, it's so simple to just put people in categories. Like you were saying, like,
Yep.
oh, you're a hillbilly, so you're this.
Yep.
Like, you're from Kentucky, so you're definitely this. Oh, you're from New York,
Right.
so you're definitely. People are
Yeah.
complex,
They
and
are.
they have life experience. Like, you might have lost your father or your son or whatever. That shapes your worldview, or
Yep.
when you have children, it shapes your worldview,
Mhm.
and yeah, it wasn't, it's not like a preachy political thing. It's just like, and I don't even like using the word political because it's just more
No.
of like a values thing.
It's like
You
a
know what I
meeting of
mean?
perspectives. Yeah, it's
Yeah.
true. It's truly two different perspectives kind of meeting each other. It's not even political.
Yeah. Political is like
Yeah.
laws and
Yeah.
robbing people of their money.
Yeah.
Values is something different. Like if you're a
Right.
human being, you can have an opinion on something, you know?
Mhm.
Yeah.
Yeah. Uh, I think like, you know, the relationship between Andy and Jed, you know, the kind of the core of the movie,
Mm.
the core of the narrative. But that moment of, you know, contention between them by the end leads to this like much deeper, you know, resolution and brings them closer at the end. And you know, they both lost someone that they love, and you know, they're never going to be replaced, but it's nice to know you can still have those relationships with other people.
Yep.
For sure.
Brought together, building a panhead. As
Yeah.
everybody should be brought together building a panhead. But I love
Mhm.
the other thing I wanted to bring up was just how the realism aspect was that the young guy doesn't know how to rebuild a panhead engine.
And the
And I
old
was
guy
like, yeah, that tracks.
and the old guy
Yeah.
will only do it if it's a resto. He'll only
Yeah, and
do it.
you
He's like,
can't
we
chop
ain't
it.
chopping this bitch. We're only doing it if it's stock. Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and
Yep.
he says in the
Um,
That was
film,
awesome.
he's like, "Didn't you help your dad?" And he's like, "Yeah, I just kind of handed him tools."
Yeah.
Yeah. We when we got that bike for the movie, or when, you know, it was in like the master list of vehicles, um, Joe's like, it's got to be, you know, 65 FLH, you know, it's got to be red. And I'm like, oh, okay. So I hit up the dude from, you know, the bike riders, because I think they had one in the movie. And I was like, hey man, is that available for rent or whatever? And he's like, no, I think it's gone, you know, sold. I'm like, all right. So I hit up a bunch of like other like AMCA people I knew, like dealers, collectors, builders. And I was like beating the bushes from like East Coast to the West Coast, you know, north to south. And I couldn't find that bike. So I think I'd found like a 58 dual glide, and I kind of had like convinced Joe. I was like, maybe if we just like swap tins, like just paint some tins red, and we'll, you know, do that, and cosmetically it'll be the same. And he's like, no, that's not really gonna do it, man. He's like, it's really got to be a 65. So maybe like a month before we went to set, I found that one, and it was this buddy of ours, DJ Bryant, far from broke, cycles in South Point, Ohio, and he just literally picked it up, and he was gonna just, you know, clean it up, get it running, resell it, and he was super gracious to let us have it for the whole shoot. Awesome dude. But that, you know, rebuilt red panhead, that was, you know, that was like the final tip of the hat, and it really, you know, symbolized a resolution between that contentious scene.
Yeah, it was great. I
yeah,
love that
actually,
part.
I'll admit, so I'm a huge movie guy. I have a Blockbuster inside my house with DVDs.
Yeah.
But
So me too.
I am the most gullible and like when I watch a movie, I just disassociate with reality. So I never,
The best.
if there's like a plot twist, dude, always surprised. You know, like I never figure it out like before. I'm just like lost in the movie. And in that scene, I was like, did he just set his fucking panhead on fire?
That's what I thought too. Yeah. I looked away for 2 seconds and I was like, whoa, what happened?
I was like, what are you doing?
Yeah.
No.
Yep.
Yeah.
Oh,
Then he wrote
man.
off on it. I was like, whew.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh,
But yeah.
Man, I
Um,
loved shooting that sequence, and we got to shoot that at like the club that you see incognito in the film is the actual strip club We
Oh,
shot
Incognito.
the club for the club, and that whole burn sequence happens. How many times could you say you got to burn a Harley in front of burn down a Harley in front of a strip club? Like, it was kind of a once in a lifetime. Hopefully, fucking once in a lifetime.
Yeah.
Oh man.
Yeah, I'm gonna have to
Yeah.
put that on my destination for vacation. I think.
Paducah. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, Paducah.
Yeah.
If we have any lowlives from Paducah, you hit us up. I'm gonna send you a T-shirt and a sticker pack. Unless there's more than
Hell
one,
yeah.
then it's the first one. But guys, we're at an hour and a half here. Was there anything else about the movie you wanted to talk about?
I mean, listen, it was just such a good experience making this. It was long, it was hard. At many times we thought it was never going to happen, but we fucking did
Oh
it.
man.
And the movie exists, and you'll be able to watch it soon. And we just put so much like love and detail, and everybody just showed up and gave us, you know, blood, sweat, tears, everything in between. Elbow grease, favors, free miles, free rides. So you know, we really appreciate you checking it out. If you like it, share it with your friends, put it on your social for us. Like, you know, we made this for you guys, so you know, hopefully you like it.
Yeah. So as Joe mentioned, we're going to be at River Run next week, doing a couple screenings there in Winston-Salem, North Carolina. And then we're also going to be at Party at the Pen, not doing a screening, but we're going to have a booth set up there. We're going to have a couple of the movie bikes on display.
East or
And
West?
East, Ohio, Mansfield, Ohio. Yeah.
We went last year. It's fucking sick, dude.
Yeah.
What
Yeah,
wasn't it? Wasn't that a great show?
Incredible. Yeah. Highlight of
Shawshank
the year.
Prison.
Luke and Josh put on such a great show, man. What a, and it's cool too because it's like so many movies have been shot there.
I was just gonna say, it's like it's easily the most cinematic chopper show. There's a lot
Yeah.
there's a lot of great chopper shows, and I've been to many, but this is like, you walk in and you're just completely transformed. You walk into a movie set. You walk.
And you can
into
walk
a different
anywhere.
world.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I spent a total of like 10 hours just walking around in the prison. And I didn't
Looking
even
for
see
ghosts
everything.
and
I
shit.
didn't even get to see everything. It's crazy.
Yeah.
That was so much fun.
If anybody's like curious about what Party at the Pen looks like, you can go Greasy Culture edition 106. We did an article on the Chrome Andy bike.
Sick.
So that I think Guy still has some copies of that available, but our friend Liam Kennedy shot that for us, and it came out great. I mean, it was just such a great location.
And there's a still from the film and stuff. It all kind of ties in.
Yeah.
Very
Yeah.
cool.
Good.
Yeah.
I gotta say, like a couple things I'll say is definitely go watch the movie and support these guys because you can tell that there are your people, you know, just by watching the film. Like it's not a
Thanks.
shill film. It's not an exploitive film. It's like just people that actually care about it. That comes through in the film. The other thing I'll say, coming into this interview, I didn't know what to expect, but like, cause you're like, oh, these Hollywood types, you know, but I hear the success and the love and the camaraderie and everybody helping each other out. That's what the fucking chopper culture is about, baby. And that's
Yeah,
what
hell
Yeah.
has been so refreshing in this interview is just hearing it's just like, it's not like, yeah, this was fucked up and we got fucked over by this guy. It's all just like, yeah, this guy helped, these people help. Everybody comes together and fucking helps, man. That's what it's about,
Yep.
really, at the end of the day. So I thank you guys for coming on. It's been such an honor having you on. Stick around. I'm gonna see these low lives into the weekend. Until next week, low lives. Get in the fucking garage, build something, get in trouble, have fun, and never fucking stop chopping. Deadbeat Customs. Steve over at Deadbeat Customs is all about grassroots motorcycle riders who build and customize their bikes. When it comes to building a custom motorcycle, they carry the best brands available. Go visit their brick and mortar store in Tewksbury, Mass, or at deadbeatcustoms.com. Remember, enter code LOWLIFE at checkout to save some money. Stay Strong Co. Jean-Luc makes the most heavenly hot sauces in the world. The shits, and hotter than a Harley and a pepper patch. Lowlife chopper sauce. Go to staystrongco.org today and grab yourself the holy trinity of hot sauces. Beck Built Fab. Dustin is the plug for excess chopper parts. Drum, disc brake, mid controls, hand shifters, foot clutch, modded worm gears, intakes, and more. He can do any fabrication, weld repair, upholstery, or maintenance job. Check him out at beckbuiltfab.com. Revenant Chop Co. Connor isn't about overpriced lifestyle merch. It's chop clothing made for the garage, for the blue-collar builder who'd rather spend his money on parts than trendy tees. It's not just another stack of black t-shirts either. He drops wild garage-born designs that stand out, gear that looks great, covered in grease, or on the side of the road. Check out RevenantChoppers.com.